Hello everybody, it's Dr. Bam, and this video is over Unit 2, Concept 2, relating to SLO number 2. And in this question, we're really looking at what are environment correlations. So an environment correlation, as defined by your textbook, is the process by which genetic factors contribute to variations in the environment. And so when we look at that concept, we are going to look at three specific types of correlations. So this is all found on page 40 of your textbook. The first type of correlation is the passive genotype environment correlation. And I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. This occurs when children passively inherit the genes and environments from the environments their family provides. Certain behavioral characteristics, such as being athletically inclined, may run in families. The children have inherited both the genes that would enable these activities, and they've been given the environmental encouragement to engage in these activities. So think about this as where whatever genetic material you've been given is just naturally encouraged and grown through the environment provided. So like here in this example, the child's parents still play on adult soccer leagues. The kid's seen soccer from a young age, but they also have a genetic tendency to be good at soccer athletically. It's something that's driven in their nature. And so between the genetic disposition and the environmental encouragement, obviously soccer is going to emerge and be a strength for that child. Okay. The next correlation is the evocative, I never know how to say that one, the evocative genotype environment correlation. And this refers to how the social environment reacts to individuals based on their inherited characteristics. So the example given in our book is whether one or more, for example, whether one has a more outgoing or shy temperament, it'll be affected in how they treat others. And so think back to, I always like to think about that baby who is super easygoing and smiles and is chill, and everybody they meet, they're kind of like, hey, how's it hanging? And they, might giggle and laugh a lot, and it really brings people to want to engage with them because it's entertaining. It's enjoyable to have the affection that this child is showing. Now think over to a colicky baby, which would be a genetic influence, and just a natural inherited characteristic of that. Well, it's physical, and for some it could be a natural. Some people believe it's a piece of temperament. And they're always crying, or they only want to be held by mama, and all of that. That's going to impact how people interact. Think back to elementary school and that kid who was the class clown, right? Their personality type was very outgoing. They were always cracking jokes. They were always being goofy. So his behavior, that goofy child in your class who was always kind of the class clown, probably influenced how you interacted with him, how you approached him, what you did with things. And so that natural personality trait that they have to draw attention to themselves influences how people engage with them. And so that's what we look at, the evocative genotype environment correlation. Then we have active genotype environment correlations, which occur when individuals seek out environments that support their genetic tendencies. Sometimes we call this niche or nitpicking, depending on how you pronounce that. And it references musically inclined, but it's also, you might have an experience where maybe something isn't really fostered in the home, but you're drawn to it. So for example, nobody really was in plays or in dramas, but for some reason you were drawn, or the child is drawn to be acting and in the theater group at school and wanting to do those types of activities, even though that's not something that the environment has naturally created an opportunity for that child to engage in. But instead, you go to those environments. So you're going to seek out the environments that meet the needs of your genetic strengths or tendencies. Those might be the kids who, the parents are not athletic, but then they have a child who is extremely athletic and is doing that type of thing. So that is the active genotype, because it's active because you're actively seeking out that environment to support a tendency that you have. So it could be that you're always, trying to get to the library to read books because you love to read, and that wasn't something that was available maybe as frequently in the environment that you were in. So that's, once again, that's the active genotype, is the seeking out of an environment to support a natural tendency. So with that information, you are going to look at your own life or the life of others. Some people like to do their children because it's easier to step back and see things in that nature, or siblings. So it doesn't all have to come from your own experience. And it doesn't have to be this huge, like, oh, I became an athletic star, right? It can be smaller. It could be things like, I always found that I wanted to do pottery, and it wasn't something anyone presented to me, but it was something I was naturally drawn to, and I'm pretty good at it. Like, I enjoy doing it. It's relaxing. That type of thing. So don't think it has to be some monumental influence in your life, right? And a lot of these are very small. But what you're going to do is think about yourself or those and give an example of each of these types of genotype environment correlations. So your passive genotype environment correlation, evocative genotype environment correlation, and active genotype environment correlation. So I should have 3 examples when you're done. Let me know if you have any questions.